that was something we, myself and Justin and some other people were trying to get turned around, and had a pretty good influx of youth that was coming in. And, it was a long road, for probably 3 or 4 years just to kind of get this place turned around. I mean, they literally, we had to borrow money just to keep the doors open at one point.
And that's a lot to say right there, because the VFW exists. It's not on government funding. It's all funded from within. That's correct. That's what your dues go for.
There's no money that comes. If anything, it's the other way around. So VFW National, there's taxes and membership fees and everything else. So every post is basically a standalone. I mean, you got to look at it like a business. And they got to pay their taxes to district. They got to pay their taxes to, department, which is your state, organization. Then you got to pay your dues and taxes to national. So every post is basically on its own 2 feet. And so any money that they need to function has got to come from, events or, in-house fundraising or something of that nature. And that's why you see a lot of posts struggling.
And I think it's all across the board. It's not just one region over another region. It's like it's either everybody suffers or everyone is succeeding. I think everyone is succeeding now. I mean, you've got a lot of soldiers getting out right now. So
yeah, and like I said, that we've experienced a couple of years of growth, and the VFW as a national organization, they really tried to change the face of the VFW. The VFW really, they've been around longer than VA. Over 100 and some years, the VFW's been in existence.
I think the VFW was it was commissioned in like 1899 or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, crazy long time ago. So it, the best of the best, the greatest generation, most of them World War II guys was the foundation of what the VFW was, and how it all started off. And, there's a lot more leniency on taxes and, what you could do and what you couldn't do back then. And a lot of these posts, really got built up, and, the Vietnam guys took over, the Korean and Vietnam guys took over, and they kind of kept things going. And then, as the Vietnam guys get older, they've been boots on the ground, working and take care of these posts for, 30 or 40 years. And just over time, you kind of get burnt out and things just start going, you don't take care of the building like you used to. And, you're paying more tax. Of course, everybody in the government's got their hand out or inspecting you for one thing or another, and it's kind of snowballs. And so the VFW really needed an injection of younger people and some life to get the organization really fired back up and to maintain what the reason we're here. We're here to continue to serve our fellow veterans, but most importantly, we're here to continue serving our country in any capacity we can, and that starts with being active in your community.
And the VFW just doesn't, it doesn't just provide a place for you to go and pop a top on a beer and bullshit with your friends and tell war stories. For you do like pre-separation, contacts and stuff. If people filing VA claims, you assist. The VFW has people available, like DAV or any other veteran service organization, VSOs, to help out that separating veteran, or even veterans who have separated that need help filing a disability claim or finding some kind of help. I mean, you guys do more than what's really, I guess, commonly known.
Right. And, honestly, most veterans, and myself included, even before I got active in the VFW, you ask your typical veteran, what does VA really do? And a lot of them, well, you can get VA home loans, or, well, if I want to file a claim, they understand that process. But there is so much more to the VFW than people understand, and even VA. But, like you were saying, we've got BDD officers on most bases now. And even like when I got out, here's your bus ticket. Thank you for your service. Be safe going home. Yeah. That was kind of the end of it. Especially for the older guys. I mean, they were even lucky to get a bus ticket. But now there's people there on the ground. Okay, let's go through this. Are you cleared here? What kind of issues are you having? Get all your records together and just basically grab your hand and walk you out the door. And so a lot of these guys, they don't understand. Some of the older people, what they had to go through for years, and especially the Vietnam guys. I mean, they're still going through it. I mean, it's every time you turn around, you're finally getting some congressional approval on, a new presumptive of, dealing with Agent Orange and everything. But not even so much that, you add another aspect to it. The VA and of course the VFW is very active in this, and that's mainly what my role is survivor benefits. So, you think a lot of veterans have that misconception, like I was saying, we got VA home loans, I can file a claim. Well, no, not actually. That's not true, because the benefits continue on even after you pass away, or you get to the point you need to be in a nursing facility. There's non-service connected pension benefits. I mean, it's not a great amount of money, but when you get to that point, funding's tight. Trust me, it's enough to get you by, especially if a veteran passes and DIC claims and stuff like that. It's VA doesn't stop. Once the veteran passes away, they're still there for your family.
They do it. They do a lot, and I've looked into that just for like will preparation and kind of after you're gone, how do you want yourself handled? Do you want to be buried in a veteran cemetery? And they have like will preparation stuff, which is awesome.
Yes, sir.
So now, since you guys got kind of throttled back on the Freedom Fest 2020, now we got Freedom Fest 2021. The reins have kind of come off, and you're allowed. And I hate to say allowed, because this is freaking America, right?
We've been given permission to play again.
Exactly. You've been given permission to play again. That's an excellent way to put it. Tell us about Freedom Fest 2021.
So, honestly, it was kind of a carryover from 2020. When you have an event like that, you always have an after-action review. You take a week or two off, kind of clear your brains, and okay, now let's look and see what we did good, what we did bad, and and reassess everything. Okay, now how are we going to improve next year, and how can we make this bigger and better? And we did that. Well, we didn't have to do it in 2020, and it's like okay, you get into the later part of the year, and now it's January, and it's like, I guess we're going to lose this year again too, and so you take an event like this, you basically got 50 weeks of preparation, planning, phone calls, contacts.
And people make commitments, and money has to be spent, and people make commitments, and resources have to be used, and then it just goes away last year. So you're kind of in that same boat this year, and you're kind of like, okay, do we overcommit? Do we undercommit and then overdeliver?
Well, honestly, the problem was at the time, there was no way, even with the early situation in Ohio, when they started even hinting around that maybe if this happened, this could happen, we weren't going to go. It was like, if there was, I'm not going to go out there. We don't have the manpower to go out there and police a 15,000 person crowd and make sure everybody's 6 foot apart, or, make sure everybody's wearing masks, or whatever contingencies they put on you. So it was either, if we're full-fledged open and we can have outside events, we're going to go. If not, we're just going to take another year off. And so we just patiently waited. And of course, you've got a lot of sponsors, that, there's that stigma out there with anything. Everybody's got their own opinion about Corona and the pandemic. And, it's such a dynamic time in the United States right now. You really, so sponsors didn't want to get on board, because, you sit there and you're like, yeah, we're going to have this event, and you got this sponsor that's, hey, thank you for, U.S. Army WTF, they're going to be our sponsor this year. Now everybody's like, oh my goodness, Fred Calaway Post 6770 is having an event, and this company's sponsoring them, and now all of a sudden we're both, blackballed. So we couldn't start really talking about it. So we waited and we waited. I mean, of course we were starting to, we'd always been like still working in the background, but we had nothing moving forward. It was just, well, no, thank you for calling. Sorry we can't help you this year, but we're not going to get involved in anything, that's going to risk bad publicity.
So were you? Was your last statement more like a? It's almost like a cancel culture thing. Oh, you're going to be having a celebration, and you're not going to be enforcing the the 6 foot rule or the mask rule or whatever. So you are being dangerous. So we're gonna.
Right.
Oh, I get it. I get it.
We're gonna shun you, and it's so, and we didn't want that anyway. We didn't want to bring that black eye to the VFW. So it's like anything else. You got to kind of tongue in cheek and you pick your battles. And so instead of having 52 weeks to plan for an event, we were already behind because we didn't have 2020. And then all of a sudden, it's like just one day the clouds parted and they're like, okay, come such and such date, we're going to allow unrestricted outside events. And it's like, okay, now it's full-fledged panic because what are we going to do? We lost 9 months. Now we've got to plan this event in basically, a little less than 3 months. So
at first you're freaking out because, this might not happen. Then you're like, oh my gosh, this is happening. We got to make it huge.
Right. And so, now it's like, you're having a meeting and discussion. It's like, okay, do we really want to attempt to do this at this point? And I've got an awesome committee behind me. And, and that was always kind of my thing and the committee's, I could show you the emails. It was always kind of a coin flip. It's like, nope, we're not doing it. Well, okay, if this happens, we're going to do it. And then the kind of the curtains part, we have Officer Jason Watts on our committee, and so he has a little bit more inside information, coming from the government side, and he's like, listen, the governor's office has already released this information out to us, and it's like, okay, well, if this is really going to happen, let's go. And so we got together, had a meeting, and put our heads down, and let's just charge forward and see what happens.
And look at you now. In 2 weeks, you guys are going to be having this big thing.
Yeah. Well, less 1 week.
I guess it is a week and a week. Yeah, it is a week.
Yeah. Week to the day, we start off the weekend, so it's and we can't do it. I can tell you right now, our post doesn't have the money to put this kind of event on. I mean, between the music and the fireworks alone, I don't even want to start talking numbers, but our post has got a very small budget of what we contribute, and the rest of it's just pure manpower and energy from our committee. And Humana came on as a title sponsor. I'd actually met one of their veterans representatives from Humana up in Annapolis at a training session a couple years ago for service officers for the VFW up in Annapolis. And just you leave a bunch of military guys at a bar, they're either all going to be best friends or they're going to fight and tear the place up and then be best friends. But kind of made friends and made a contact there, and of course they couldn't come on in 2020, but and I talked to Humana early on in 2021. It's like especially with a healthcare organization, we really got to watch our exposure to.
I was gonna say that. I'm like, Humana Health, right? That's the same Humana,
correct. Right? So they were very reluctant to even commit, and then once the state opened everything up and they left the restrictions, it's like, hey, are you still talking about this? And here we go. So we got Humana Health as a title sponsor, commercial liability partners. I mean, I can't even talk. I mean, I'm not going to tell you. I mean, if you want to talk about generous, it's a local company that's doing a demolition service of a power plant, and they get raked over the coals by every aspect of every news organization. You think they was out there personally killing babies out in the street or something, but they're a great organization, and and they jumped on board and great corporate sponsorship, and they came through big time. Hilltop Resources, we've probably got 15 different companies that came on board this year, and I'll be honest with you, sir, it was kind of overwhelming. Like usually in the years past, I've always panicked about the money, and the festival was the easy part. This year, I mean, there was just such a response because people were done with this nonsense, and there was such a response from the sponsorship side. It was almost like we had to start telling people no, like, hey, how about next year? Which is always a great problem to have.
Exactly, what a great problem to have.
So and then we struggled to get things on the festival side. So it flip flopped this year. The money was easy, and the festival was hard to plan, just because things are still backed up, and a lot of companies that were open in 2019 that we used, and festival ride companies and food vendors and stuff like that, they're all gone. They lost everything, and so we've had to kind of adjust, and got a little bit different show this year, but it'll still be a good time. We've got a great event planned.
What kind of activities do you have set up for this year?
So Saturday is basically, we got artesian vendors. That'll kick off at noon. And that'll go throughout the day. Food vendors. Then from 4 to 6, we've got a cruise in. Back to Heroes Rumble. Amy Donnelly and some other folks that come on to help out with that aspect.
Great organization. We've had them on the show before. They're awesome.
Yeah, so they came on board and are going to just helping us, invite people out for. It's just a cruise in. So it's our post 75th anniversary. So, going to put a special little area up there for the World War II era cars, 40s, and that'll go from 4 to 6, and then immediately after that, well, kind of in conjunction with that, from 5 to 7, we have a tribute to service. And so during that 2-hour period, we reach out to a lot of the, reserve and National Guard units around us, and, have them bring static displays. The SWAT team will be coming in, the police department, the fire department, and ambulance, and just, any of our first responders and military people. We try to get as many vehicles out there as we can, and let the folks come around and check out, the equipment that they're using. And mainly the most important thing is just give the community a chance to come out and, shake them guys and gals' hands and, thank them for their service and, for what they do for they're continuing to do for our country and our community.
That's awesome.
And once that wraps up, we'll have a circus going on all day. And they'll do a 7:15 performance, and they got balls of fire and all kinds of other crazy stuff, and this big aerial display, and then we'll wrap up at 8 on Saturday, and then Sunday, we'll kick off at noon. Parade will start at 4 o'clock. We got Mike Figlioli from National Veteran Services up in D.C. will be coming down. He'll be one of our grand marshals, and then I don't know how familiar you are out on the West Coast with the great American himself, Bill Cunningham. He's another one of our great grand marshals. So we'll kick the parade off at 4, and as soon as that's wrapped up, we got Eric Penn, just another New Richmond graduate. I mean, I don't like naming names because you're always going to leave somebody out, but I'm going to tell you, somebody just, you want to talk about an individual just continues. I mean, he can't. I don't know that the man could give more to his community than Eric does, and just. He took the whole music package on for the entire weekend. He's like, hey, don't even worry about this. I got it. And so that was one aspect of the show we didn't have to plan. He scheduled it all himself. He's paying for everything himself.
Wow.
Just a great lineup of music. And then 10 o'clock, we're going to park that barge out on the river, and Joe Rossi and Rossi's Fireworks are going to come down here, and we're going to
light that fuse, baby. That's my favorite part. I love the fireworks, man. I love it.
Yeah, we partnered up with Rossi Fireworks in 2019. The area of the we're right on the Ohio River, so they would always shoot them off on the Kentucky side. With the laws in Kentucky, the way the banks are set up and everything, and the canopy, the trees, you know, they can shoot 2.5, maybe squeak by a 3-inch shell. And I mean, it's okay fireworks, but when you can get a barge out there and you're on the water and you got different regulations and rules and you got plenty of space away from the crowd and, you know, any kind of structures, and you can start shooting 10 and 12-inch mortars.
Oh my gosh!
Now we're talking about putting some boom in the bang.
I hope everything goes just awesome without any mishaps, no random fires, no no bad stuff.
No rain.
No
I
rain.
already said the bad word, but
yeah, we're due. I mean, here I'm in the north central Texas, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we just got from like Sunday through next week is nothing but rain. I'm fine with the rain, though.
Down south, please.
I'm fine with the rain.
I don't. I mean, if it rains and cools everything off, I'm fine with it. Just as long as it don't damper the crowd. You know, we everything's budgeted out, and as long as I can sell about $10,000 worth of beer,
I don't think you'll have a problem with that. I think that'll be a great time. I think America, not just in the New Richmond area, in the Cincinnati area. I think that nationwide, we're sick and tired of just being locked down, being told, you know, you got to wear a mask, or you got to, you know, stay inside, or don't go out, or don't stay away from people. People want to get out. People want to see live music. People want to go and associate with each other again. And I think this is going to be a great year for y'all.
Like I said earlier, there's almost a small fear in the back of my mind that exactly what you're saying. I was talking to our beer distributor the other day when we were ordering our, you know, right there's another great example. I mean, usually when we're planning the beer or sales, that's done 2-3 months out in advance, and we literally just took care of that 2 days ago, and we were sitting there having a conversation about it, and she told me, she's like, you know, just right now, it's so crazy. It just kind of depends on where you're at. There's either too many people, or you might go to another festival and like there's nobody there. And but I think a lot of it, if you look at some of the stuff that was going on, it just, you know, I think it's the atmosphere of it. And I just, you know, not tooting our own horn, but this is a veteran-run event. We always strive to keep. I mean, we got to sell alcohol to pay the bills. I mean, that's just a given. But we strive to keep this a family-friendly event, and I think they're just going to come out of the woodworks. And it's and like you said, people are reaching out. I mean, of course, Amy's had a lot to do with that. She got plenty of media contacts. We've had multiple TV interviews. I mean, people pay attention, and, you know, the county chamber of commerce and the tourism board, I mean, they always put, you know, our event on there, but I mean, the attention we've got this year has just been unreal. I did a radio or a Facebook live event yesterday with the local IGA store. They do a weekly little Facebook promo, and they invited us down to talk about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
You know, and then one thing leads to another, and another news agency is watching the Facebook feed, and they email the village mayor and the administrator like, hey, who is this guy? We want to interview him. So now we got a couple TV interviews again next week. So it's like, you know, 700 WLW and Bill Cunningham's just blowing it up. I mean, everybody's talking about it, and I think we're going to. It'll be a good weekend for New Richmond and make New Richmond shine.
I hope you guys just have a phenomenal time. I think it's going to be great. I remember being a kid. I always loved going to the 4th of July things that my parents would drag me to, and it was always like a company thing that my dad worked with or my mom worked with or something. I just remember being around other kids, and we were just having a good time. We had a cool thing that you guys might want to do. Take some like $50 and throw them in like a sand, get a pit of sawdust, throw a couple of $50 in there, and then release the kids and have them dig for $50, you know, for like 10 minutes. You know, if you find it, you can keep it. and then do that again. That was my favorite thing. It was just, it was all the kid stuff associating with kids. So, a family friendly event, and this is great. And you're going to cap it off with 12-inch mortars from a barge. Oh, that's awesome.
And and same thing like you're talking about, just bringing some of that childhood youth back. Festivals back then, there was a lot of different things that happened, and you kind of get away from the typical parade floats. It's not really such a thing anymore. But we got the Hamilton County Bagpipe Band. They're coming back again. I mean, if you ain't never heard 40 or 50 bagpipers going down the street, they are just, it just gives you chills. But we've got Uncle Sam on 10-foot stilts. It's going to be walking around just like back in the old days, and he's going to be making balloon animals for the kids. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm ready for it to be over. There's just so much stress going into it, but it's going to be fun. And like I said, we're going to kick it off Friday with just a private invitation only 75th anniversary dinner, and got plenty of people, politicians and important people coming down for that event. And just to congratulate our post for being around for 75 years. I mean, especially in today's society. I mean, something to be around 75 years, that's something that speaks volumes on its own. But and then just cap it off with one of the best events this town's ever had. And
so you guys you guys are celebrating 75 years. The oldest VFW post, is that in Columbus?
The VFW is actually founded in Columbus.
You're right. I figured the oldest post would be in Columbus.
Yes, sir.
So that's doing good, being around for 75 years. That is quite an accomplishment. What's your membership look like? You guys have a lot of members?
They're active or non-active, but between our actual post members, we're sitting on. We just talked about this in our meeting. I think we're sitting at 79, and then add the auxiliary in, and then we also accept a limited amount of social members. But to all said and done, we're right around the 200 mark.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. So when they talk about like a $1.5 million VFW all the way across, does that include all the auxiliaries?
Oh, no. That's just when they're talking post members, that's just post members themselves.
I gotcha.
They don't never count the auxiliary in.
I gotcha, dude. Man, good luck this week or next weekend. That's next weekend. So you got a lot of stuff going on. I know you can't stay the entire hour. I appreciate you spending your very precious time with us tonight.
Yeah, anybody that knows me knows once you get me talking, you can't shut me up. So, and I'm sitting in the office at the VFW. My wife and daughter and I and some other volunteers, we've been down here cleaning and shining and trying to get everything ready. And I'm sitting here, the entire canteen is empty. And I'm sitting there watching the bartender and my wife just sitting there, and I can see the smoke coming out of her ears right now. So I better run, get her home. We got to be back down here at 0700 tomorrow. And I really appreciate you guys having us on.
Thanks for being here.
I always enjoy some of your Facebook posts. Us veterans, we got a little bit of a cynical side of humor, so it's nice to keep up with some of that stuff. We are. I mean, it's an interesting sense of humor that only the veterans usually possess. Yeah, and sometimes it's a good thing, but I guess it's only for the weak. It's not for the weak at heart, I guess you should say. I gotcha,
and I absolutely agree. Rodney, thank you very much. Rodney Henry, thank you very much for your time. He's the VFW post commander from Fred Calaway Post, 6770 in New Richmond. I was going to say Virginia. That's going to be in the Cincinnati area. That's Ohio, and they're having this big bash called Freedom Fest 2021, and they're going to 12-inch mortars. That's awesome. Rodney, thank you very much for spending time with us.
Hey, shoot Amy an email with your address, and I'll ship you a T-shirt out.
All right.
Tell me what size and your address, and I'll shoot you a T-shirt out.
Rock on, man. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Yep. And thank you, sir. And you guys have a great weekend.
You too. God bless America. That was awesome. Pooky, you're kind of close, man. You can kind of fly out or ride out. I know you don't fly.
Oh, yeah. I could probably ride out there that way, but, I'm going to enjoy myself here.
Oh, yeah, you got the family in town. That's awesome, man. How bad, I mean, it sucks to put so much effort, and no one expects to have a pandemic happen. So you put all this planning in, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, you can't. All that stuff, all those commitments that you had from people, all the donations, all of the material commitments that you've had from people, all the money that you paid for goods and services. What do you do? You would all the donations that you receive. What do you got to do? You got to give them back. What happens? No one really plans for that.
It's rough. Well, I mean, no one plans for the government coming up and saying, "Hey, you can't do shit." Huh?
I felt really strange saying that you're being allowed to have an Independence Day celebration. That just sounds wrong.
Allowed.
That's wrong. That is so wrong. On so many levels, that is wrong.
It's like what was it? What state was it? Vermont. Their governor was like, everything's going to stay locked down until we get 80% of the people vaccinated. And I'm like, that sounds like you're being held hostage at that point. Huh?
So anyway, that was Rodney Henry. Go and check out. They have Facebook deets. I don't have their actual. There's actually a Facebook. There's actually a Facebook site for Freedom Fest 2021. If you're in the area, please. Pay them a visit. Make them run out of beer. That's what my goal is, to make Freedom Fest 2021 run out of beer. He's only got to spend $10,000 in beer. That's not a lot of beer.
You're buying it by the keg, and you get it from the distributor, and it's actually a lot of beer.
Well, yeah, what is that? Math. You're that's $50 a keg if you're buying in bulk. Plus, then you have to have now the government. Now the government's like, oh, you have to have people. Whoever serves that beer has to be, ATF, whatever you have to be certified in order to serve alcoholic beverages and whatnot.
Yeah, you got to pass like your bartender's exam or whatever it is. I don't know. Is this different state to state? I know Texas is crazy about that. Like you have to be licensed.
Food service. You have to have some kind of like a food service certification.
Yeah, it's not that hard to pour your own drink. That's legal. But when someone else wants to pour a drink for you, you got to have a certification for
right.
it.
If you serve it in cans, it's fine. But if you serve it from a tap, then it has to be something different. A certified person. That's when crappy ass unions get involved. Don't get me started on unions. It all depends. It all depends. Ohio. I used to live in Ohio, and the reason I moved out of Ohio is because of wages and because of unions. That's why I left. I would rather work in a right to work state where you'd get paid just the same if you're a union or not. And doing fine here in Texas.
Sis.
Hell yes. So what you got coming up this week? You got any big plans for Independence Day?
No, just maybe slap some steaks on the grill, chill out, watch all the crazies in the neighborhood blow up the neighborhood. I was thinking about pulling my drone out and flying it up and try to get like a 3D shot of all the shit popping off.
See if someone can shoot you down. That's what I'd do.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cheap drone. I wouldn't be mad about it. As long as I got my pictures first, I wouldn't care at that point.
Everything's wireless nowadays. Anyway, we're talking about the VA. 6,000 posts worldwide. I had no idea that there were that many posts. 52 departments in 50 states, Asia Pacific and Europe, totaling about 1.5 million members. Of those members that are active, and Rodney had a good point when I asked him what his membership was. He goes, well, there's active and inactive members. So I know what the difference is, but I'm not sure what the difference is. Membership eligibility: citizens or nationals of the United States serving honorably in the United States Armed Service in a foreign war or overseas operation recognized by a campaign medal are eligible to apply for membership to the VFW. Korea after June 30th, 49, and recipients of hostile fire or imminent danger pay are also eligible. Veterans of World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Lebanon, Grenada, Panama, Persian Gulf, Somalia, Kosovo, Afghanistan, Iraq, and other small expeditionary campaigns, as well as occupational duty, will qualify. So pretty much all of us are eligible to apply for VFW. I think... I want to say that Spanky's got a lifetime membership for VFW. I might be misspeaking.
Yeah, that was I would have applied, but I was looking online while you were talking, and I'm in like a desert area where the closest post is it seems like 40 miles away. I'm like, nah.
It's crazy to think that you're 40 miles away from a post, but there's 6,000 posts in the United States.
I also live in a crazy place in the world where they think internet's like, ooh. My grandfather was telling me when he first moved down here back in '89, they were talking about this new telephone system that's supposed to be revolutionary and will save lives. It was called 911.
Uh-huh. I've heard of that.
That's in '89.
Micah Saldivar says, am I eligible if I mop the motor pool in the rain? Were you under fire? Did you do it over in Korea? See, what I'm thinking is if you spent any time in Korea, you get that. I've got, even on my I have Class A's. That's how old I am. I've got a Korea service medal or a service ribbon. So that would qualify me. When I went over to Iraq, I was doing so as a civilian, so that doesn't qualify me. But when I was in the service, I did go to Korea. So, yeah.
I got, my OAF badges. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think you're good, man. So I guess that's our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Rodney, for spending time with us, and I really hope your wife's not too upset that you had to spend some time with us on the radio. We've got shows coming up Monday. On the Monday edition with Ice and Flash, we're going to have country music singer Darianne Lay is going to be here. So yes, that's the right slide. So she's going to be here on Monday on the Monday edition with Ice and Flash to talk about her latest single, 10,000 Miles, which tells the tale of military households and loved ones across the nation and is derived from her own story. So tune in on Monday to hear her stuff, and hopefully we get to hear some of her music. I've been asking, and I was going to load up some of her music to play tonight, but I wasn't sure if we would get the copyright strike or something, so I opted not to, because we don't want to get the station in trouble.
Nope.
So you got any final words of wisdom? I have none, so we're going to rely on you, Pooky, for your final words of wisdom before we get out of here.
I can't think of any off the top of my head either, man. Don't drink and drive.
Don't drink and drive. Actually, yeah, that's not a bad point. Let's do a little safety briefing here. It is much less expensive. You might get an ass chewing. You might get that little side eye from your squad leader, your platoon sergeant, or whatever. But if you go out this weekend or even over the July 4th weekend celebrating Independence Day, if you need a ride home, call for a ride home. Call an Uber. An Uber is just immensely least. It's not as expensive as ending your career in the military or spending the thousands of dollars for legal defense because you decided to drive while intoxicated or, at worst case, get in an accident and injure or kill somebody. So please make good decisions, and thank you everybody for joining us. This is Koz and Pooky signing off, and Pooky's got that little sniper scope over his face there. I really hope you haven't made any enemies tonight. Anyway, we will catch you. We will see you on Monday, and then the next show is going to be Tuesday. The Pop Culture Warrior is going to have a show, and then I think we're going to be on a Tuesday-Friday rotation because Ice is going to be doing Ice things. So he's going to be taking a little bit of time off, but he will be back. He's not quitting. He's not going anywhere. He's just taking some time off, and everybody needs time off. So thank you all very much for joining us. My name is Koz, and we will catch you later. Bye.
Later.
This is Radio.